welcome everybody to Geek the F Out. We have a very special Masters of the Universe Revolution discussion to have here with our legally distinct, copyright-free He-Man and the Masters of the Universe music. I am Lucha Johnny. We have some
I'm
guests
Kayla.
First. Yes, my co-host.
Our other
I am
co-host,
Brick Something. Here it is. It's going. There it is. Woo!
There we go.
Sorry, I can't get over that stuff.
Welcome everyone to Geek the F Out. Yes, as you can see, we have two extra extinguished.
Distinguished?
I very well may be extinguished at some point soon, so that's good.
No. Distinguished. There we go. Guest with us. We have Mr. Nate Baertsch. And we have Ted Biaselli. And if you guys don't know, Ted is the executive producer of MOTU Revolution, also voices Gwildor.
One of the executive producers. There is a legion of us.
Yes. And Nate, if you aren't familiar with his artwork, he does a lot of MOTU art for toys. He did the posters for the shows. You know, you do, and now you do Four Horsemen as well. Yeah, you are very, very talented in all the art, and I'm always in awe when I see whatever new piece you've put out.
Thank you.
But yeah. Welcome. Before we get going, like we've done in our last few streams, GTFO is a safe space, and we want everyone to feel welcome here. And you can voice your opinions, but if you're going to have any kind of bigotry or hate in your opinions, you're going to have to geek the F out of here. And also, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of MOTU, but we also want this stream to be accessible to new fans, including myself. So we'll have some basic questions that, you know, some people probably already know, but don't worry, we'll get into the nitty-gritty things too. So yeah, should we say hi to the chat?
Yes.
Hi to the chat.
Hi to the chat. Yeah, succinct. My buddy's Customs is here. Collecting Brothers. We're just going to go through these real quick so we can get into the good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Stanley's Toy Channel, Kenzo, Brennan, Nick Dillinger, MOTU Origins, Cork, Nolan, Thanos Copter,
Nolan.
Rick Jones, Hyperdelic, Eldor, the Masterversal Toy Hunter, and Neil Hunter Hyde are here.
Nice. Nice.
Get us
Did you do
kicked off. Did I
Stanley's?
say- Yeah, he was the first one. Or no.
Oh, yeah.
He was
Stanley's.
there. And then
Hyperdelic.
Josh Brown. Toy Hunter
Josh.
Hallway. Scott
Hi,
Baker.
Toy Hunters.
Leroy Weisenhunt.
Leroy.
There's people
Welcome,
rolling in
welcome.
now.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, we'll start with some introductory questions like we've done on our previous streams. We've asked all of our guests what their backgrounds in MOTU are, like when they started watching, what did they start watching, all of that stuff. Some people probably already know this about both of you, but I actually don't know this about either of you. So Ted, why don't you go first? What is your background in MOTU? How did things start? Where did it all begin? Where did it go downhill?
Well, I think it went downhill pretty publicly. My MOTU origin story. I, like everybody else, I know I don't look it, but I am almost 50. I was, there day one with MOTU. And I had, my grandparents had gotten me Castle Grayskull for Christmas Eve. I think it was Christmas '83. And I was so excited because I had Castle Grayskull. And I had no MOTU figures. I had nothing. I had no figures except Grayskull. So I was literally playing with the cardboard cutouts on Christmas Eve. And then the next morning, my parents had opened up all my my MOTU figures. I had gotten everything I think that came out between 82 and 83. So, and that was kind of like, we didn't have a lot of money. So it was like, this was the thing. This was my thing. My cousin Mark had Star Wars. I couldn't buy Star Wars because Mark had it. So if I wanted to play Star Wars, I had to play with Mark. Even if I didn't like Mark, I had to play with Mark. And I got MOTU. So if Mark wanted to play MOTU, he had to play MOTU with me. So that was how my MOTU story began, 1982, 83.
Amazing.
Nice.
Nate, what about yourself?
Ted and I are very similar aged. I probably look the age, unlike Ted.
I live in Southern California, Nate. You know.
I have 2 teenage daughters. Actually, they're not teenagers anymore. Who is a teenager? But yeah, they're awesome. They all love all Masters of the Universe. Also, my origins are very similar. Often I've been on record of saying this before, but I remember it was probably fall, close to Christmas, somewhere in there, where a buddy of mine across the street, we're 80s kids, so we're out playing in the streets all the time until mom and dad let us in when it's dark, drinking from garden hoses and all that good stuff. But I remember it was Brian Tate across the street. He came walking over with He-Man and Skeletor in his hands. And my mind was blown at that instant. I was just like, what is this? And where do I get more? And what is this world? So my first introduction, was it was the 8-pack. And actually at the time it was only the 4 because Tila, Stratos, Merman, and Zodak got released later. So you could only find the 4 in the store, and those were my first 4 figures. Like as soon as I told my mom about them, she was just like, she was on board. She just got them, and it's been that way ever since. Honestly, the other thing I attribute to me just being an illustrator, period, me getting into art anyway, is largely due to Masters of the Universe and largely due to those mini.
Oh, wow.
Like I was fascinated with that world that Alfredo Alcala had drawn and created for us in those books, and it was over for me. I knew I was doing art.
And those beautiful box
awesome.
art, the Rudy Obrero box art, the beautiful William George art, the beautiful Earl Norem art of the magazines. Like the magazines were so I still have an entire collection of those Masters of the Universe magazines. And those posters were like all over my walls. I love them so much.
Love that.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, the artwork of Masters of the Universe absolutely had influence. And I honestly pinch myself every time I get a new job that deals with anything Masters of the Universe. And my day job is with Four Horsemen Studios, but as anybody knows, Four Horsemen Studios has a deep history with Masters of the Universe as well.
Yep.
Love.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Sorry. And just underscored by the fact that you're like all up in these new art books of Masters. That's just an amazing to hear.
Like I'm cover boy. How did that happen?
Yes, cover boy. We love it.
I mean, the guys that do all the real work, their artwork is inside those.
No, come on now.
We're not going to qualify real work, my friend. Your work is real.
It is work.
Yes, it is real. Very real.
Okay, next one.
Go ahead.
We have a list. We're just trying to alternate down too. You're modifying it on the fly too.
Yes, I modified it. Yes.
It's a living document. A living.
Yes. Living document. Buzzword. Corporate buzz speak. Teddy.
Yes, sir.
How did Revolution come about, and how did you get involved? What's the
Both
origin story
Revelation
there?
and Revolution.
So
Yeah.
I've been very lucky. Before my Netflix job, I've been at Netflix for almost 10 years. This November will be 10 years. Before that, I was vice president of programming at Hasbro. And I did Transformers Prime, G.I. Joe Renegades, Littlest Pet Shop, all the whole, gamut of shows that were on the hub, the Hasbro Toy Network. And when that network first came to life, I had called a gentleman at Mattel named Rob Hudnut, who was he oversaw he's the guy who like he got it, like, oh, we should be making entertainment based on our stuff. He's the guy that championed all those Barbie direct-to-video movies. Like that was his idea.
Oh, damn.
And I had known a bunch of folks at Mattel for decades, right? And Rob had introduced me to Rob David at a Super 7 power party at San Diego Comic-Con. It was the year Super 7 had done their the Three Terrors animated DVD, if you guys or animated VHS tape, if you remember that. And Rob had introduced me to Rob David, and he was like, you guys should know each other, like just know each other. And we decided, we said, oh, let's go get breakfast tomorrow morning. And we did. We set up and got a breakfast. It was a terrible breakfast. I joke. We joke all the time. It was the worst breakfast I've ever had in my life. Ice cold, awful. I don't even think the restaurant exists anymore. And over that breakfast, we just started talking about MOTU and how much we both love it and how much we just dream of like bringing MOTU back in a way that was sort of like came along with us, right? That just came along. If MOTU never stopped, right? If it just never stopped, or if there was no gap.
Yeah.
And that was sort of like the big idea, because we both knew that there was a corporate initiative from Mattel to like make Masters of the Universe relevant to a whole new generation. That's important. That is essential for any brand, is to make sure that it revitalizes and keeps it relevant to new generations. That is what, oh my God, Aquabats, I got so many stories. I'm actually close to all those Aquabat shorts.
Nice.
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 But so we knew that was a plan for corporate Mattel to do a kid show. But one of the things we didn't want to do was, if that happened, if a new version of MOTU came out that was something completely new, like the CG version was, it kind of left the people who've been carrying the torch for Masters of the Universe behind, right? For, we've been holding this brand near and dear to us for 40 years. And it was the kind of thing that's like, okay, well, we're moving forward and we don't even acknowledge you. And that was something that we were like, man, if only we could just like do like a grown-up version of Masters of the Universe, like something that like, all 130 episodes of Filmation, all the mini comics, all the Star comics, the DC comics, all that stuff was like in a vague continuity. And then we would just tell a story now. And in that conversation, Rob and I, we were kind of like, testing each other, like, oh, how big of a MOTU fan are you? And like those kinds of, like in a good natured sense, just to see if like we were on the same page of the story we wanted to tell. And at the end of the day, we landed on, I wish we could fulfill the one lingering story thread of Tila fulfilling her destiny as the sorceress. That was sort of like the dart that we threw on the wall. Like that's the story we would tell. And when we started from, we said, you know what? It's kind of tied into the fact that she's the only one that doesn't know that Adam is He-Man. What happens if we tie those ideas together? What does that do? And then we went back and we said, okay, well, what's your favorite episode of Masters of the Universe? I said, well, Tila's Quest, and probably second favorite, The Witch and the Warrior. And then Problem with Power, we all agreed was the best episode of MOTU. So we kind of like laid our card. All right, those are it. Then he said, okay, what do you think Tila would do when she found out that Adam was He-Man? I said, she'd throw something at him. I said, she'd look for whatever was over there and she'd throw something at him. She'd be livid. She'd be so mad about it, because here's a person whose whole job, her whole life, she was told, you got to protect the prince who can't protect himself. You got to, this guy who you're trying to make, his defense, this guy, he's not good enough for anything. At least that's what she thought. And everything thought was a lie. And I think that girl from those cartoons, the girl who talked back to the sorceress, the girl who talked back to Granomir, the girl who talked back to Queen Marlena, that girl would not take it well. And that was sort of for us. That was sort of like, ooh, drama. And that was kind of what started the whole thing. And then Rob said, well, who should we get to write it? And I said, well, I worked with Warren Ellis on Castlevania. And I said, we need somebody like that. Somebody who has sort of like a pedigree in nerddom, and yet who is a good writer in and of themselves. And Rob had met with Kevin about something else. And he said, what about Kevin Smith? And I was like, oh my God, I love Kevin Smith, but I don't want to be all dick jokes. Like it can't be dick jokes.
There's only a few.
And I have my copy of Chasing Amy signed by Kevin Smith. I have Dogma on the special edition Blu-ray. Like I am not Blu-ray because it can't come out on Blu-ray. But I'm like a Kevin Smith fan. But I was worried that we would kind of bring this down to, you know, snooches. And I was like we had a meeting with Kevin, and I was so blown away by his thoughtfulness, by his eloquence, and his sort of like his literary sense. Like when we would throw things out, he was like, oh, like Thomas Mallory. Oh, like, oh yeah, that's absolute, you know, that's Shakespeare. And I was like, yes, treat this like Shakespeare.
Nice.
And that was it. That was a long answer. I'm sorry.
Love
great.
Love all of that. It's so funny because even as someone who hasn't watched anything MOTU before Revelation, and people were saying how they were surprised how Tila acted. I'm like, I get that you have the knowledge of her background, but then I also heard from so many people that that's exactly how she would react. I'm like, regardless of all of that, has she been in this situation before? Absolutely not. That is very human reaction. And we talked about that a lot with Revelation, was these are very like human reactions, and we're not used to that in a lot of animation. And so I think a lot of people were thrown off by it. I on the other hand, and most of our friends, you know, we loved that. We loved that, you know, grounding of it. So yeah, just wanted to make that quick comment.
I think one of the things about Revelation that I think went a little lost in the sauce is that this was about a girl who was not ready to embrace her destiny. That girl who takes her tiara off and storms out in a temper tantrum, that girl's not ready to be the sorceress.
Yeah.
She had to go on an arc. She had to learn what importance there was around certain things, the great things greater than herself. That was the whole point of that story. But I also get that may not be fun to watch, especially if you are coming to this with that vagueness of MOTU in your mind of what you loved about MOTU as a kid.
Yeah.
And what you loved about MOTU as a kid and what you remember about MOTU as a kid may be two very different things. So I think that, again, I'm very happy with the story that we told in Revelation, but I do think, and I will acknowledge, that if we had 10 episodes before Revelation that was old school He-Man fighting Skeletor, and we could see a little bit of that fighty fight, a little bit of that Tila, of that girl before Revelation, I think people would have been a little bit more on board with the journey that she went on. I think they would have gotten what they wanted from He-Man. They would have seen the girl that wasn't ready to be sorceress. They would have embraced the arc that she would have been there. Still wouldn't have liked her throwing a temper tantrum and storming out of the castle, but that's part of that. It's okay to not like somebody. We are not at our best in grief. We are not at our best in grief. And that is what I think we really want. I mean, we were developing this at a time. I had lost my mom. Kevin had lost his dad. Like it was very much. And we were talking about sort of like the emotions that you go through in this, when you learn things, when you find out things in that darkness. And we didn't shy away from it. We didn't shy away from the way human beings reacted. But I acknowledge that may not be fun to watch, especially when you are bringing 40 years of MOTU affinity, and you wanted to just sit down with a bowl of cereal and watch MOTU. And here we are, very confrontational.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm gonna hit it where it hurts.
No. We're gonna make you hurt. By the way, we said that a few times in the writing of this. It's like, no, it should hurt. It should hurt. And you know, we get it. And look, I think all criticisms of entertainment are valid when they react to the content. And I think where Revelation got lost is some kind of identity politics. People who came to this and saying, I love Master of the Universe, and that it really upset me seeing Tila talk back to King Randor. That really upset me in that moment. That is absolute valid. We heard it. People who say, you know, women shouldn't talk to the king like that. That's the kind of stuff. It's like, okay, all right, that's you're bringing something to the criticisms.
Yeah,
Yep.
It's interesting because you're
very aware of that.
You're talking about sort of like, how do we bring something that people loved, especially at a different point in life? Usually, like we're talking, by the way, also old guy. And so I was a little tiny kid 40 years ago that watched those cartoons. And at the time, cool, I'm in it. Give me the adventure of the day or week or whatever it is. And you move on, and there's moments of real like great solid storytelling that made me think a lot. And then other times it was just like, hey, let's run around, save the day. Cool. 40 years passes, and now it's like, hey, we're bringing back that thing that you loved as a kid. And so how it's interesting to hear you talk about how you all kind of sat together as sort of folks talking about bringing back this thing that you loved at a particular point in life. And you are faced with this sort of conundrum of like, do we tell the same kind of story that's been told before at that same, at that same point? Or do we factor in like, yeah, folks are older now, and not just folks are older, but I think the approach to storytelling that we're used to, like if I look at what even young people, my kids, 10 and 12 years old, what they're watching is a lot more, I would argue, like emotionally intelligent, socially intelligent than the things that I was faced with. So it made sense to me, and I really appreciated that. Like, oh, this is dealing with stuff, and like you mentioned grief, or the notion of living a lie and secrets, and people around you keeping secrets. And so I really appreciated. It's kind of sort of what you said. Like, well, what if it kind of continued, but we're older now, and it's a different type of storytelling. Mm-hmm. So, but I get the pickle you're in with like, yeah, maybe other folks wanted to get that bowl of cereal, right? And watch that and kind of relive those days. But I don't know.
That's kind of what we did with Revolution. We're like, okay, the darkness has gone.
Exactly.
Let's get like we still intended to keep it mature and sophisticated and move the story forward. And without like, I don't think we doubled back. We didn't course correct. But what we did was we said, let's focus on the MOTU of it all. Mm-hmm. Like, what makes MOTU that thing? And it was a clash between magic and technology, that you can have a sorceress of Grayskull and a guy with a thing around his head that has 3 different eyes, and a guy that has a robot arm. Like, those are the kinds of things that we were like, all right, let's play with the toys. Now that we have the toys, that we broke them, we fixed them. Now let's play with them.
Yep. The real quick, the DreamWorks Voltron did a good job of meshing that technology and mysticism too. It was really, really good.
Oh, that show is, I mean, head and shoulders. I love that show exists. I love Lauren Montgomery. I love Joaquin DeSantos. I have friends who wrote on that show.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there. I see it back there.
I wish they would do that one next. Yeah. But I'm sure that won't happen. The old vehicle Voltron, the old guy.
Brick, you got the next question?
I wasn't prepared to, but sure. Are you trying to go in order?
Do you have?
Because I don't have.
Well, we're just on the intro.
Go. You do it.
The note.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Well, Nate, how did you get involved with working /Mattel in the show? I'm guessing probably through Ted for the show, but for Mattel and all the artwork.
It was 100% Ted. So, I mean, first of all, Powerhouse Animation is chock full of amazing artists and designers, and they did posters as well, and they're phenomenal. Yeah, I think any of my influence on Revelation and Revolution was purely Ted's fault.
I will take full credit for that.
And for what about with just working with Mattel? Like, how did that first come about?
That was a longer road, and it's been an interesting. If there's a pathway to Mattel that went through a forest, there were moments where I caught it, and then there were moments I disappeared into the forest, and then there were moments I came back, and that kind of a thing. So to really describe what I mean by that, in that, honestly, it probably goes back to 2001, 2002, getting a phone call from Val Staples, who at the time was the owner of He-Man.org, who was also at the time the owner of MV Creations and had the licensing to do the 2000X comic book. And he called me up and said, hey, I saw you were posting some fun stuff in the fan art forums on He-Man.org. Do you want to do something real? And I was like, well, duh. It's like, are you kidding me?
Twist
so that was the first moment, Ching, lifelong dream had become
very humble. He was a celebrity in the He-Man.org.
Yeah.
He was Bana. Like that was the thing. I knew who you were before I knew who you were. Like you were an icon.
In some forums in the early 2000s, so
you're still an icon though. I told you that myself. I'm like, I knew you before I even knew like MOTU. Like before I started collecting anything, before I really got into things. Like I knew who you were.
That's awesome.
Yep.
I'm just a dude. I'm just a geek like the rest of everybody. But yeah. I was posting in there. Val said, do a thing. I did a thing. Then he said, do some more things. We did stuff together. And that's part of the path. The second part of the path was the Four Horsemen, who was at the time working on the 2000X Masters of the Universe relaunch with Mattel, had taken note of my work as well. And slowly over time, they said, hey, do you want to work with us on a few things? And that was actually with their FanX property. That was with some action figure lines that don't exist anymore. And again, as soon as I got that first job with them, anytime there was any illustrative needs, I would work with them, which also turned into illustrative needs for Masters of the Universe Classics. And so one of the big ones I'll just touch on is Castle Grayskull. That was a project that was, here we were a few years into the Classics line, and Scott calls up the guys and says, I think we're going to try to greenlight a crowdfunding thing for Castle Grayskull, which at the time was unheard of in toy history. Like toy companies were not making gigantic, iconic play sets. That was just like not a thing. And so yeah, we were tasked with that. And Eric was like, through previous conversations, Eric Treadaway of Four Horsemen Studios and myself, we had offline conversations. We have a very shared vision of how we see Masters of the Universe, and that's basically what you see in Masters of the Universe Classics. And then based on those conversations, I just got the call from Eric and said, dude, it's time. Like, let's make this thing. It's like, sweet.
It's time.
And I just remember having a few conversations back and forth. We designed it, they made it, it funded, it's sitting on our shelves. None of that was really directly with Mattel, though. Those were all like ancillary, third-party things that were kind of hitting. And then at some point, this is going to be weird, but my first job for Mattel packaging is the multi-bot packaging for Classics. And it was Axel Jimenez, our good friend Axel Jimenez, had done some drawings for it, and I got to do his color work. That was the first time. I don't even think I was put into their system yet. Like I was just this weird outside freelancer. I think Axel paid me, kind of a thing, to help him out with the colors. And then, so yeah. Then fast forward just a few months later, Scott Knightlick calls me and says, hey, do you want to color one of the mini comics? So it was like all these little things kind of slowly built up until finally one day it was Roy Juarez who called me up and said, hey, Axel said that you might be able to help us out, because Axel was already in their system at Mattel for the packaging artwork. He was already just cranking out just piece after piece for Masters Origins. And so yeah, I'm giving a long, boring answer, but essentially from there, I have a great working relationship with Roy, so I get to do packaging pieces from time to time. He's been very patient with me, especially as I transition to becoming a full-time employee with Four Horsemen Studios. So my time is kind of limited, but yeah, I mean, that's where it happened. At one point, I think I was going to be the new Eternia guy for Masterverse, because I had started most of them. But again, my schedule got in the way and I just couldn't keep up with it. So we had to find some other talent and some other friends. And like Simon Eckert, who's just kicking it out of the park right now. But yeah.
Amen. But I will say, as a master four horseman fanatic, I worship Nate's artwork. We just got our figure obscura over the holidays of Jacob Marley's Ghost, which is one of the figure alone. He's back there on that, so he's sitting next to Skeletor. The figure itself is magnificent, but that packaging, that and the Mask of the Red Death before that, and the Monkey King, which honestly, Nate, the work that you do transcends, and what it does is people who don't even know the Four Horsemen, Mythic Legions or Cosmic Legions or Figure Obscura or any of that stuff, your work transcends that and pulls the MOTU fans over to that. I know for a fact so many MOTU fans who weren't collecting Mythic Legions, you got them into Mythic Legion because of the art. And my Poxus wave has not shipped yet, but I am waiting. But I have been begging Eric and all those guys for Wizards for years. I'm like, me some Wizards, please. This wave is all Wizards all the time. I am so excited for this.
Which, Kayla, by the way, I know you're a Lord of the Rings fan.
I know. I heard Wizards.
Wizards, and they both happen to have blue cloaks. I'm just saying. I'm not saying that they're the lost two, but I'm not saying that they're not the lost two.
Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Yes. Thanks to Brick, actually, I'm very, very aware of Four Horsemen, and might be getting some of what's the wave that you got that I wanted some of? I'm already
the Rising Suns and the gosh, what is it called?
Oh my word, that is
because the one that looks like Gimli, I'm like, I need it.
Oh, isn't that the Noble Bear?
Two pack of the two dwarves one?
Yep,
they look so good.
Yep.
I have an entire Mythic Legions dwarf armada like on this bottom shelf over here. You just think I'm kidding? Like,
you just made a bunch of people really happy, by the way. Yes.
Wow.
I know exactly who's cheering right now as you say that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, your room.
I love it.
Wow.
One day I'm going to be a grown up and have a room like that, but until then,
that's what it takes. It takes. You need to grow up a little bit first, Nate.
I do.
Let's continue the art talk. Actually, so you've been doing all the work. I don't know if I missed it, but how you got directly roped into Revelation. You sort of said that was all Teddy, but and I'm kind of curious to hear how you go about doing these posters, given that you said I was the new attorney guy, like that actually has its own look and feel, and then you sort of said that you and Eric had your vision of MOTU from classics. So how do you then go into like learning about what they're trying to do with Revelation and Revolution, and then trying to translate that into artwork that fits that sort of new retelling and version of this Masters of the Universe thing?
That's a good question. I don't know if I have an answer. I'm just excuse me. No, that's it's interesting. My background actually, prior to a lot of the toy stuff and the things that most of this audience is familiar with me doing, I had a career in children's educational stuff. Doing educational software for kids. So a lot of Sesame Street kind of stuff. Teaching kids English. It was the kind of job that I could sleep really well at night because I felt like I was doing something good for the world. I still have that feeling doing what I do now, but I was actually helping kids at the time. And it was in that job, I don't think I ever felt like I had my own style. And if you talk to a lot of artists, I think you'll find that for a lot of our careers, I don't know if we know what our style is, but clearly I do have a style. Clearly, excuse me, people can look at a painting, and I've had that. In fact, I had it happen with the Revelation poster. As soon as that was shown publicly, there were fans that had known both Teddy and I from He-Man.org that immediately knew. They were like, Nate, you did this. Like, clearly you did this, kind of a thing. I was like, yeah, cat's out of the bag. But So when I approach something like this, to answer your question, Brick, as I come into a job like this, part of me wants to do fully rendered painting style stuff like I do for Mythic Legions or like I do for the Masterverse type stuff. I took a long time doing these. It would have taken an insane amount of time had I fully rendered and fully painted these things. And so as I remember putting the comp together and showing Ted and showing at the time it was John. And I mean, we knew we wanted something that kind of paid an homage to the old posters. In fact, like the one I have up there on the wall.
Yeah, we had talked about that early on, like those the cross sells that would come out every year. They would do another one, and they would always have that kind of like chasm in the
Group
middle.
shot.
Yeah, exactly. And you're kind of showing everybody. And we very much wanted to just cram this poster full of as many characters as possible, even with characters that like only have maybe a blip of a scene in the show. And also I knew that this was for an animated feature, so I clearly wanted to make sure that stylistically they looked like the animated characters with just a slight twist of what I would do to it, kind of a thing. Like you can look at this poster and look at He-Man, and that's not 100% on model with the He-Man that's in the show, but it's there. Like it's close enough, kind of a thing. And it feels a little more epic. It feels a little more grandiose. It's, you know, hopefully if I did my job right, we hit all the right notes there.
Yep.
So
I will say you did.
Yes.
Confirmed.
It's very a la Avengers posters, which I'm a big Avengers fan.
Confirmed. What you guys didn't show though was the second, the part 2 art that he did.
Yeah, I just sent that to Johnny.
He-Man in the front with Skelegod back here, and the beautiful Evelyn and Tila in the ether kind of thing. I just love that art.
And that was fun too, because I did on that second poster, we definitely switched directions, and I got the directive from you, Teddy, and from Gaston at the time saying, we want the more painted look for this. So let's just have fewer characters and knock yourself out and do your painting thing. And so that's what I did for this one. Loved it. And then likewise again for Revolution, same kind of thing. So sorry. Go ahead. Somebody was going to say something.
Oh, you're fine. I was just saying that green. I love green, and it's very. It literally looks like it's glowing on the page.
And then the art that debuted today.
Yes.
Today, that gorgeous.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that, you guys. Look at that.
Gives me chills just looking at it. That
you
scene.
Can hear that. You can hear that image. You can hear the lightning crackle. You can hear the music swelling.
Yeah.
So good. So good.
So again, for the secondary posters, there's the big, you know, marquee poster that's just going to be like, look, this is our big animated feature. Here we go. And then I like these second posters where I get to just kind of paint some moments. This by far was one of my most favorite moments in the entire series. Like the entire series. I was just like, we have waited so long. Like, especially fans that were literally born. We were the demographic that Masters of the Universe was built for, and we watched all of Filmation. We went through all through 2000X. We stuck with the brand and everything. Like, all of us wanted this. And so yeah, when Teddy was
absolute chills
describing kind of what we wanted to do for this second poster, as soon as he said it, I was like, yep, I'm on board. Like, don't even have to convince me twice about it. I'm ready to go.
You're like, I already know. I know exactly what I'm gonna do. Yeah, I even had chills, and yeah, once again, I'm a very new fan, and also, you know, I'm not a big fan of romance stuff, but even I was crying during that scene.
I cried during that scene still.
Yeah.
I'm a 28-year-old who is crying in this cartoon. So here we are. Yeah.
Love.
That's awesome.
So good. Brick, did you want to do the second part of the question?
Well, yeah, I am kind of curious. So it's building off that, both for your art and then even some of the, like, there's a lot of redesigning and new ideas for costumes and looks and ships and vehicles. So for the posters that Nate did, I'm curious, how much do you interact with not just the team working on the show, but also is there interaction with Mattel about like, oh, that's not something we would create for MOTU? Like, in terms of again, like that look that you just showed us of He-Man and that look that you showed us of Sorceress, right? Those are very like, those are essentially like new designs. Did you have to be like, hey, what would Mattel do to create a King He-Man or anything like that? Or is it kind of just whoever's running, just the show creatives can kind of decide that? How does that all work?
That sounds like a Teddy question.
Okay.
At least all of the interfacing with Mattel, because by the time I came into it, these characters had already been designed. It was already finished and done.
So essentially, you get a brief from Teddy and the team, the creative team on Revel, and so they'll guide you with that. Got it.
Yeah,
and then
usually
Okay.
what happens is the show itself is in the works. When a show is produced by, like, it's Revelation and Revolution produced by Mattel Studios, but it's licensed by Netflix, and they usually do the bulk of the marketing for it.
Okay.
So it was Netflix that called Nate to do the art for it, for our poster, with license and permission from Mattel. It's all legally mumbo jumbo.
Yeah.
However, I will say, my dear friend Nate Baertsch has an affinity for the Green Goddess, the pre contemporary iteration of Tila and the Sorceress. And as soon as we knew that our Tila in our show was going to get the power of Ka, and it was going to transform her into that look of the Green Goddess, every time I got versions of the design, I would call Nate and I would be like, okay, ready?
Yeah,
ready?
totally. That's the goddess, the green goddess guy right there.
Go, okay, I like the sleeves on that one. I like the tail on that one. I like the head on that one. He was like, literally, Nate was. I mean, I had an opinion, but I trust. I mean, when somebody loves something so much, you make sure that that what we're doing is gonna match the love. Like, that made sense.
Love that.
It also happens. It's helpful to know that the person you're asking is also like a very talented artist and has a strong visual sense and understands the material. So can't really go wrong.
Not just like a normal everyday fan.
That ties in well to a question, Brick, you specifically had for Nate. Do you want to ask him that now? Because it kind of ties into what they were just talking about.
Well, sure. I mean, in particular for the goddess, you know, you're definitely the go-to person, I think, because you kind of championed this character in many ways, in your own ways, on the boards and beyond. I'm just wondering.
It was his icon.
Yes.
In He-Man.org. That was his icon. Many
literally, yeah.
And to maybe connect to what Kayla's saying about like any new maybe new fans, if you could give the maybe historical background about Tila and that whole look and how that came about. And I'd just love to hear your reaction to hear that she was going to be in this.
Oh, even better. That I'm excited to talk about. In terms of my history, this could be long, so please keep me from getting over. And Ted was there. Ted was there on the forums as well, so he can double check on how this all played out. But you got to go back to like 2002. Horsemen are redesigning Masters of the Universe as we know it, and they're doing it with Mattel. And I'm on the fan art forums and He-Man.org, and I'm like, I'm going to draw up my favorite character that has never been a figure, but was kind of a figure, but not really a figure. And that goes back to just me being a kid, falling in love with those early mini comics. And in my brain, my little kid brain, and even now today in my adult brain, Tila is awesome. She's one of my favorite characters. Always will be, always has been. And when I saw that there was like a green Tila or this green sorceress, she was the sorceress at the time in the comic, I was just like, what's that about? Even as a kid, it just resonated with me. And so fast forward to 2002, Four Horsemen are redesigning everything we know about Masters of the Universe. And I'm like, I want to take a stab at redesigning that Green Goddess. And I called her the Green Goddess, even though in the comic, she's the sorceress.
It's a good dressing.
It is good dressing. Exactly. And so I did that. I did a quick little sketch one day and posted it, and it kind of went nuts on the forums. Like it was very well received in the forums. I got so obnoxious about her. Like 2 years later, I repainted that piece. It was a sketch, and then I repainted it, like fully rendered painted, made it even more syrupy and goo goo gaga-y
Nice.
and all that stuff. And I annoyingly posted it everywhere, not just in the fan art forum, but I would be like, oh, custom figure forum? Hey, someone should do a custom of this. Or we would have a discussion in the main forums, and I'd be like, slipping that picture in, like, hey, we could talk about her too. And to the point I was annoying. It was just flat out stupid annoying. And thankfully, because it was pretty artwork, I think the rest of the forum members were like, Bana, you silly guy, we love you. And they just tolerated it. But it was like, it even grew to the point of I created a Mary Sue character of myself named Bana, who was like the protector of the Green Goddess, which was hilarious.
I feel like I vaguely, it's been a while since I frequented He-Man.org regularly, but that sounds familiar to me now.
Oh, sadly, rest in peace. But yes.
But yeah, so it was, so that, I mean, that's kind of where my history is. Now to get to the other side of your question on my reaction.
Yeah.
I mean, some of that goes back to 10 years ago, also when Rob David took over the comics, the DC comics, and he was like, no, this take on Tila, he was the first one to kind of say, that's not just another sorceress. This is an evolution of who Tila is becoming. And I was full bore on board. Like, I could have been the old fan of like, that's not my Green Goddess, you know, that's not my whatever. But I'm not that guy. And I can appreciate the genius, in my opinion, of what Rob was able to do with her character. And that evolution made sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so to hear that, well, I guess we can kind of peek behind the curtain here, because in Revelation, as they were coming up with concepts and designs for Tila, and it's even in the Art of book, you can see like her progression was possibly going to go the route of the snake anyway, with her armor. And I was just like, hey, I think I remember messaging Ted of like, couldn't we just do this and like color her green? Couldn't we like call that a day kind of a thing? And I was just kind of joking with him, saying like, wouldn't it be cool if she showed up in the next season, kind of a thing.
And we kind of like when they were designing Sorceress Tila's look, and it had the Cobra look in there. Rob and I were on the phone because I was kind of pushing towards Cobra Tila. And I was kind of like, oh man, I really want to see that. And Rob said, I think that's an evolution of her after she's already the sorceress. And Rob's like, I have an idea. Let's talk about that. He's like, but for this one, let's have it be a version of like an evolution of Zor. Like that's where this is going. And then the snake is sort of like, and then Rob had done something very similar in the comics with Serpos and Horikoff. And then in our version, and I think it was Patrick and Adam, the directors, who used the snake, the ram, and the bird and the falcon as sort of like the Holy Trinity kind of thing. And that was when we were all like, oh, okay. This is how it's all manifesting. This is a version of what Rob set up, but for our story. And then when she needs the power of her Ka staff, that's what's going to happen to her. She's going to look like that.
So cool.
And it's so fun.
So cool.
And yeah, and I was standing in Walmart of all places at the store. Just picking some things up. I think I was actually, if I remember correctly, I'm standing in the toy aisle because that's what I do. I go into Walmart and I beeline it.
Of course. Doesn't everybody?
And I feel my phone buzz in my pocket and I look and it's a message from Ted.
Nice.
And it's screenshots of, it was literally screens. No, in fact, I think it was movie stills.
It was moving. It was
little movie stills of Tila in that scene on episode 3. Of Tila and Evil Lynn bantering back and forth and fighting. And I was just like, are you kidding me? Like, are you kidding me? This is amazing. And I'm like trying to look in Walmart, like making sure nobody's around. And it's like, come on, I load. And I'm like, this is phenomenal.
And then I unsent the message.
And then, yeah. Ted's very careful. He's very professional. It's like, we don't want stuff out there. But it's fine.
Oh, that's amazing.
I was ecstatic. Clearly, and I've been
That's
happy.
awesome. Is there a nugget?
There
Oh
he
my
is.
God.
Why am I not eating? Why am I not eating?
Hi, baby. What is your name?
That is Storm, and then my other dog Phoenix is outside. So
Love.
X-Men nerds too.
I was gonna say, is there a rogue in there?
Yeah.
Is
We got a third dog. We said we were going to name her Rogue, right?
So cute. Big fan of not only the nuggets, but also the doggos. Or the labs. Johnny, do you want to do the next question?
Sure. We'll start with Nate, and then we'll kind of roundtable to everybody for Nate and Ted, and then jump in. What are your overall thoughts on Revolution now that we've seen the 5 episodes? And do you have any standout moments or lines that we haven't already mentioned?
I love Revolution. I love it as a progression. It's the same thing with Star Wars. I'm terrible at, everybody asks, what's your favorite Star Wars movie? And I'm like, well, it's Empire Strikes Back, but that's what everybody says. But really, it's the whole thing. It's the same thing with Lord of the Rings, which is my favorite. Lord of the Rings is like, I don't know. I love the whole story. I love the entire thing.
Yep.
And that's how I feel with Revelation and Revolution. It's like, I love the story that the journey that this is taking us on. I love the arcs that are happening in between. And as far as Revolution goes, some of my favorite moments are for sure Skeletor fighting Hordak. Like that big showdown between those two. That is something that, because I've been with the property forever, and when the Horde was first coming out and about, it was like, I remember in my little kid brain thinking, wait, these are a bunch of bad guys that could really be everybody's fighting everybody kind of a thing. And everybody's loving the pup. I love the pup.
I know. And the other one just came in.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, she's beautiful.
They knew. They heard my voice. They're like, oh, she's a dog person. We must come.
Dog whisperer.
I am the dog whisperer.
I also
continue, Nate.
Can we be spoilery? We can be spoilery.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
All the spoilers.
I was just going to say, I love that story arc of that connection between He-Man and Tila, and Tila's desire, like from that first episode of Revolution, that desire to mend what Evil Lyn had destroyed and bring back Praeternia out of love for, everybody that's fallen, but specifically it was her love for Adam. And so that was a really very satisfying story arc to watch and have happen.
Love.
Cool.
Ted, you obviously had a lot to do with the show, but
right.
Are there any specific?
It was mid.
Are there any specific lines or moments or something that you really pushed for that you were like, oh yes,
I'm gonna be very, very generous here. It's actually something I didn't come up with. Rob came up with the idea that the sword actually turns Skeletor back to Keldor. And when he pitched that to me, I remember going, it illuminated so much. Not only that I thought it was a beautiful capstone to this story, but it gave me so much foresight of where we could go with that character. Honestly, that moment triggered so many thoughts of oh my God, and then he can do this, and then he can do this. Oh, and then he can do this. I got so many different things. And every time Rob and I would talk about what happens to Keldor after Revolution, I would get so excited about it. So I hope we could tell that story someday in animation. I honestly, I love it. I think we're very, very aligned on the arc of Keldor, and I think it's going to be something poetic. That's the word I use.
So good.
Because that's something that I don't think has really been explored in any MOTU fiction so far, is Skeletor reverting to Keldor.
Yeah,
that's a new direction for the
and
franchise.
you couple where he ends. couple where he ends with the line when he says to Hordak, "My name is Skeletor." Like that is the moment of like that's his catharsis. Like he's like, no matter what you have done, this is who I am. And by the way, that's what we think. Like even though he is Keldor in form, his desire, we flip it. Like now it's Skeletor pulling the strings, and that's the kind of thing that's like, oh, how do I get back to Skeletor? Like that's what a drive for a character.
Yeah, I love that shot. It's one of the last shots in the 5th. Yeah, the crown.
With the crown. Oh,
him sulking in the prison of Grayskull with that crown, and it's like, yeah, the emotion that I had just seeing that was like, yes, this is. It's maybe new, but it feels very Masters of the Universe, which is it's just awesome.
Love.
Yeah, I agree. That was great. That moment is great because, you know, with Filmation, He-Man wasn't really allowed to use the sword. In this case, he really uses the sword in that moment, and it goes through somebody, but it ends up sort of healing them, I guess, or transforming them. And
what a cool thing that the sword, a sword is used after it's stabbed to heal someone.
Yeah,
that's like, that's a very MOTU thing.
And sort of established early on when he's using the sword to heal the child too. So I really love that sort of thing. Maybe go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to answer Neil's thing. It wasn't a line that I went to bat for or fought for, but we realized halfway through one of the animatics for the 5th episode that Skeletor had no idea that Tila was on the side quest to bring back Preternia. Like he had no idea that was happening. There was no overlap at all in their story. And Rob was like, and there she is hovering above Grayskull, and Skeletor is like focused, and he's like, wouldn't he like want to know what's going on? And I wrote the line, so I'll stab you and whatever the hell she's trying to do.
Yeah.
And
So
Rob
good.
was like, you think that's enough? I was like, yeah, I think it's enough. I was like, stop you. Just an acknowledgement.
That's so good.
You know what's going on, but at the same time, he's just trying to do something. That was a joke. And then Tim and I would beat jokes up together to make them as funny as they could possibly be. Tim and I have been writing together for quite a while. And this joke, he hates it because it doesn't make any sense. And I love it because every time somebody watches it, they laugh. When Skeletor says uncle, and then He-Man says, like my uncle's once removed. Tim's like, that's not a thing. Uncles aren't removed. That's not a thing. Like, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's still funny. But it drives Tim nuts because Tim is such a literary grammar police guy. Like, and it incenses him. He's like, it doesn't track. That joke doesn't make sense.
I'm guessing he's probably a Virgo or Capricorn.
Wait, I forget his birthday. January's his birthday. What is that?
Oh, yep, Capricorn probably. If it's the first part, then yes.
Yeah.
That tracks. Love. Johnny, do you want to talk about some of your
like I love the whole
favorites?
show. Like not just because you guys are here and I'm talking to you face to face. Like I really love the show. I was saying on one of our previous ones, like I don't remember a life without MOTU because I was born in 1980 and I've had He-Man toys as long as I can remember. But things that really stuck out to me in the show were like the Star Trek connections are great because I don't know if you know, our big thing on the channel is we do Trek Retrek. We're watching through Star Trek. Kayla's never watched Star Trek before. I've watched everything. Gates as Marlena is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Delancey as Grandemir.
Gates was my call. Delancey was Rob's
Well
call.
done, sir.
Rob is the biggest Star Trek fan. Rob is, and so is Tim, by the way. They're both massive Star Trek fans. And Gates was one where I'm like, if we were doing a live action movie, I would cast Gates McFadden as Marlena.
Yes.
Like that is that's just what it is. So when we were talking about who we would get to replace Lisa, who couldn't do this season, it was like, well, if we're gonna cast somebody in a live action movie, I would cast Gates McFadden. and let's see if we can get Gates McFadden. Also,
she's amazing, and she
awesome.
doesn't.
Oh
Yeah.
my God,
She
she's
doesn't
so good at
work
her-
a lot. It
I
doesn't
love
seem.
her.
Like I was looking at her IMDb and stuff. She's not super active, but everything she's in is fantastic.
She's a total pro. And I love her line when she goes, "Is everybody good?" And Evelyn goes, "I really haven't decided yet." That's
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Sharon.
Is everybody good? I haven't really decided yet. So it's interesting to me real quick that you mentioned Trek and you mentioned those two. There was another Star Trek person, I think, in this show, wasn't there?
I was getting there.
Okay, cool. I was just like, oh, that's interesting. We missed one.
Before, well, there's 4. There's another one. Because Jeffrey Combs as Zodak. Jeffrey Combs is he's been all through Star Trek as various different aliens. He was Shran in Enterprise. The Andorian. He's amazing, and for him as Zodak is fantastic. And then of course William Shatner as Keldor, which nobody clocked. That was not on anybody's bingo card, and that was great.
We were so good. We had kept that thing a secret for 2 years, and then 2 weeks before the show dropped, that damn toy really revealed it. We were like, no! It was
classic.
Not that we thought it would take away from the show, because I think the performance stands out for itself. I think the concept of bringing Keldor into this continuity was something that I don't think anybody saw coming, because we had declared Demon from Another Dimension, even though we knew that there was that was an unreliable narrator, like Skeletor. I mean, it's very clear Skeletor is an unreliable narrator, and that there was something about the origin that was off. And we knew we were going to try to plan out how to do this, but we knew that as soon as Keldor is in the lexicon of Revolution, people may say, "Oh, it's going to be Shatner," and which is one of the reasons why I didn't reveal that I was Gwildor, because I was like, "Oh, people think that Shatner's Gwildor. I'll just keep my mouth shut. Let them think that." So that's kind of it worked out for that. But I was glad that it.
And then my last standout thing was Motherboard having a bird form that was tied back to Screech. Because we see Zor all the time.
That actually
we don't see Screech much.
That actually went all the way back to Revelation. I in the script, Triclops had all this stuff about we worship the motherboard and all this stuff like that. And in the original designs, the altar was just I think it was Night Stalker's head with all these tubes coming out of it, and it was just tied up there. And I called Rob David and I said, I have an idea. Doesn't Motherboard sound like a MOTU name of a character that would have existed in 1986? How clever are we? It's a robot and her name is Motherboard. It sounds like something that somebody in a cubicle in Mattel in 1986 would have come up with, a character. And I said, wouldn't it be interesting if they were worshiping this idol, this Motherboard idol, and she's hiding in plain sight? There is an entity in there and nobody knows about it until the very, very, very end. And Rob was like, "Ooh, that's cool." And I said, "Now I'm going to do you one better. What if it's Screech?"
Nice.
What if it's Screech? What if it's an actual robot bird that is in there? Because in Filmation she was a robot bird, and in some of the other iterations, she was a vulture, and she was Evil Lynn's bird form in some of the Golden books, I believe it was. Evil Lynn transformed into Screech. So we went with a little bit of the Filmation continuity, that it was a robot bird created by Triclops in this thing for us, and that was the Motherboard. And then we have Motherboard's whole origin of how she came up. That will be told someday. So I'm not going to go into it now, but it's very, very cool origin, and it's also tied all back to MOTU. The only thing we came up with was the idea that there was a consciousness inside Screech that transformed into this robot that somehow works for the Horde. But everything, awesome. every way we got there is all pulled from the original Don Glut Bible, some Filmation episodes, some mini comic episodes. We really, really put her origin together from
love that.
the 2 stories.
So
and then
cool.
the cosmic enforcers at the end is the last thing. Like making me think of them as like MOTU Green Lantern Corps is pretty cool.
That was I'll take credit for that. That was one that I really pushed for, because obviously episode 5 ran a little long, and when you're trying to bring your shows in on budget and time, you look for things to cut, and that was one where it was like, oh, maybe we cut one of the post credit scenes, and I was like, you can't. We need to know what happened to Evelyn. But that was honestly inspired by Golden Discs of Knowledge Filmation episode, where the character of Xanthor, who is in that triumvirate scene, I don't know if you see, it's Zodak in the middle, Strobo is to the right, and Xanthor is to the left, or a Xanthor-esque type character. The idea that there was a character who had done something very, very wrong, very bad, and then did something to help redeem himself, and Zodak acknowledging that when you've lived in both sides of the spectrum, you can find true balance. That idea really, really resonated with me. And I mean, I don't think any of us really wanted to see Evelyn become fully bad again. And I don't think it really makes sense for Evelyn to be a hero. But having Evelyn straddle the spectrum of continuity of between good and evil, understanding where the balance tips and teeters, and what we want to do with the Cosmic Enforcers is very, very, very complex, and what they do, why they weigh in, when they come in, not like Doctor Who, or like Doctor Who, that there are some fixed pillars in continuity, and then there are certain things that you can adjust, and the Cosmic Enforcers are there to kind of abstain from certain aspects of it until somebody threatens those pillars. And that's kind of like what we're trying to do, and sometimes those pillars may be things that people would think are bad, but on the surface they're bad, but they have repercussions down the line, right? Like
the TVA.
Yeah,
or like the
say,
Watchers, I guess, also
like,
in the MCU.
Or like when Qui-Gon says to, or actually it's Obi-Wan says to Anakin, you were the one that was supposed to bring balance to the Force at that moment. And it wasn't him, it was his son. So Anakin had to become Darth Vader so that Luke could exist.
And that's a pillar. Sure. Awesome.
Yeah, I will say some of
No, you're in the
here
perfect
for.
space. I've had that exact same moment
Geek the F out.
here. So I'm just like,
it's in the name.
Yes.
Real quick before we move a little further, Screech, the use of Screech. I will also say that, at least the way I read it, was great in that they're worshiping a new god. And if we think about some of the gods that we were introduced to in Revelation of the animals, we had a falcon, and essentially here's this robotic falcon bird type thing. And we know that the falcon often transforms into the sorceress. So it kind of felt like, even though I wasn't at all expecting something to come out of that, it was like, oh, of course. So it was perfect.
It's kind of like, it's the profane version of the sacred, right?
Yep.
Like, I think that's kind of what we were going for there.
Yeah.
And if you didn't catch it, I also saw Teddy was on Dad at Arms, and he said this was not the first motherboard, and it probably won't be the last motherboard.
Love that. Love it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
It feels like Hordak has been very busy elsewhere, and there's a lot of firsts, and some of his techniques, his MO gets repeated. It seems like.
Well, we also acknowledge in Revelation, Toy Sorceress. We also for Revolution, we acknowledge that Skeletor says, you hate magic because you don't understand it, which is why you've always had an acolyte to wield it. Now, we know his number one magic acolyte is Shadow Weaver. Prior to Shadow Weaver, we've established that it was Skeletor, right? Yep. So at some point between what we know is the classic continuity, mini comics, Filmation, DC, all that stuff, and before Revelation, at some point, Hordak abandoned that concept of a magic wielder, or hedged his bets. Fine, I got a magic wielder, But I'm also going to double down on technology, and I have an idea of how I'm going to do this. And I think that somewhere along the line, Hordak employed Motherboard. We know when first contact between Hordak and Motherboard happened, so like that moment was a sort of a pivotal moment for Hordak, and it happens before the events of Revelation, before the Cataclysm, before Adam breaks.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait because it's going to happen. We're going to get more.
It's very early.
Keep
It's
alive.
very early. It's only been a week on the service, so everybody it has to get big. It has to grow. Like everybody has to. People who don't watch MOTU have to watch this. Like it's not not enough for just us.
Yes.
Just MOTU. It's got to be a big hit. It's got to be as big as Blue Eye Samurai.
Oh, God. Don't get me started on Blue Eyed Ceremony. How great that is.
Wasn't it magnificent? Blue Eyed Samurai was so good. Oh my
meant
God.
so much to me, but yes.
Before we keep going, we have the lovely Toy Sorceress joining us. Yes.
Hello, everybody.
Good to see you.
Welcome.
Good to see all of you.
Yes.
You can
Clearly,
see my office looks a little different today because I'm not in my office. My office is actually undergoing. The shelves are starting to come up tomorrow, so I'm hopefully going to start getting my toy collection unpacked and up and running this week. But I can't get to my desk. It's kind of walled off with boxes and stuff to make room for the shelf assembly that's going to start happening tomorrow. So I'm in a different room in the house, but happy to be here with all of you guys. And we're in some incredible company. Nate, so nice to finally meet you. I am such a fan of your art. And Teddy, very nice to meet you too. You guys are freaking awesome. How are you all doing tonight?
We're grooving tonight.
We're having fun.
Yeah, we're currently talking about our favorite little moments, lines of the show. So Johnny has given some of his, and Nate and Teddy. But yeah, the rest of us have not yet. Brick, do you want to give your quick few?
Sure. I won't even give a quick few. We've got all our other shows where we've done it, but I'll just name something because it's got to be named. I guess it's a character that may or may not be in this. So in this, and we're spoiling everything. And if you want to hear more about episodes 4 and 5, stick around later.
Spoiler alert.
We're spoiling it all. We're jumping to the end a little bit. So first off, there's a flashback of something that Skeletor did and Hordak did in a nursery, and it looked like there were I think 2 cribs that were on the ground, and there were stuffed animals, and so it seemed to us that there might be a tease of a baby that was taken, although we didn't actually see a baby, but smart positioning.
There was a bundle.
And then
there was a little bit of a blanket.
Yeah, a little bit of something.
There's something there.
Yeah, we see something.
It was a sweater. Skeletor said, "Take a sweater."
Don't forget your sweater.
Cold.
So he
get to bring it
down. He's being a good daddy.
So there's that. And then at the end, we already talked about the Cosmic Enforcer reveal. But before that, there was another tease of a character, Despara, and some of the things that happened there. And so without going more into it, that was my favorite. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on what that was all about, or what you can share.
I'm curious too.
Yeah, okay. I guess we're gonna have to do more work to figure out in the next.
I will say you won't have to wait too long to get more about that backstory. There is a Dark Horse miniseries coming. There will be some elements of that story will be unfolding. It is that story is not finished.
Okay.
It's just getting started. It's very we're going to give you everything you want but nothing you expect. There you go. How's that?
It's horrible, but I'll take it. No, I mean, it's great. There's more coming, but that was fascinating. And I think, some of the things that you talked about, magic users and Hordak's sort of MO of how he uses people, it just seemed really interesting to me. Two things that we talked about last episode, that we got to see Hordak taking over Stone Dar's world. I keep forgetting what it was called.
Geelon.
And it seemed pretty easy. Bunch of ships, we come in, boom, we take over. Seems to me that there's a long game played in trying to mess with what's going on in Eternia. We're talking a really long game, given the flashbacks and everything. I'm hoping we get to
it's a bounce. I think Hordak, he keeps trying. He knows that Eternia is the center of the universe, and once you take over that, you're that's your, he's playing Risk, right? He's trying to get that key thing that's going to unlock all of the other things. And I think he's tried a number of different tactics. He's gotten close, and then he's gotten beat back. And I think that every time gets him a little closer. He is a brilliant tactician. He learns from his mistakes, and every time that this has happened, he gets a little closer. Hordak is not a new entity. He is not as new as Skeletor, right? Skeletor is new. Hordak is old. Hordak has been around for a long time. As an emissary of Horde Prime, he is, and this is, and it's not just Eternia, right?
I heard that.
It keeps building. Hordak's empire keeps growing far and wide. So but he'll keep coming back to Eternia when he thinks he has a way to get it. So,
okay. And real quick, Nate, have you drawn Adora or She-Ra in a while?
Recently?
Did you do any sketches? No, I'm just...
Define recently.
Just kidding.
I did the sketches for the She-Ra
Brick.
Masterverse, but yeah,
you did. They're beautiful.
Brick.
Keep practicing.
I'll work on it.
Not because they weren't great, just because I want to see more, and I will see more.
I would love to. I would happily draw.
Me too.
She-Ra.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Anyways, that was it.
So I loved both Revelation and Revolution so much, and I thought to myself, why have I not watched these sooner? Well, Revelation obviously sooner, but like we talked about, I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan, so I loved all the little moments that were put in there between Gwildor and Orko and Granomir, and we even saw a very Doors of Durin-esque look in Revelation as well. And, Granomir saying, "You shall not pass." Gwildor saying he doesn't like to go on adventures, coming out of his little hobbit hole.
Orko
Loved
saying,
all
"Go
of
back
that
to
stuff.
Shadows." Like, it's all there. Orko the White.
Yes, Orko the White.
Faceted nerds. I love it.
Blank the White is real popular this year. Like Ahsoka the White, Orko the White.
Oh, yeah. We did it first.
I was going to say Revolution.
Yeah.
We did it first.
But
yeah, and I just love, like I talked about before, all the real emotions that come out of the show too. And we talked about it when we covered Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse earlier last year. And it's amazing that we can have these animated shows now that just have so much heart and character in them, and it's great to see that in the show as well. And there's still a lot of like fun and lighthearted and corny goofiness in it too, and I think it's just such a great balance of everything. And in terms of stylistically, I love anything colorful, clearly, as you can tell by my makeup.
I gotta do a review on this guy. I haven't done it yet.
And so all the like colorful iridescent looks, especially of the Tri-Sorceress at the end of Revolution, loved that. And also Disco Skelly and just the galaxy look, and it's so good, so good. And those are just a couple of things I wanted to mention.
I love costume changes because that means variant action figures.
Yeah,
it really does all come back to toys for me. So even with Revelation, when we were like, okay, and then Skeletor looks like this. Oh, and that Evil it looks like this. Like when the Powerhouse team came out with the Evil in the Bat Sorceress look, my inner 8-year-old brain melted because When I was a kid, I had a little Halloween rubber bat that I cut the head off, very Ozzy Osbourne, and I put it on her. I put it on my Evelyn head, and then I taped the wings to her, and that was her sorceress look when she leveled up. So when they put that in, I exploded. So having the opportunity to do that now for Tila on the Revolution side was like, man.
So good. And the Sailor Moon transformation.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like it was already kind of like that in Revelation, but this was just like chef's kiss. I was such a big Sailor Moon fan growing up, and I just like chills. That whole scene, chills. So good.
That's a convention exclusive right there. The both of them in the middle of the transformation in translucent blue plastic. I can talk,
Yes.
I promise.
I will buy that instantly. Instant buy.
You hear that, Mattel? You guys listening?
Yeah. Yeah. Hint, hint. Nudge, nudge.
We are getting more Revolution figures this year.
Okay.
When Griffin and I were at Mattel a couple weeks ago, those little clips that you're seeing on that Griffin and I went to Mattel and we wandered all through the Mattel Design Center. We saw all the new toys for this year.
God.
There's some really cool things coming. My Toy Sorceress friend, you are going to be very happy.
You need the dish.
Really.
Maybe we need to talk after this.
By the way, chat, I will remind chat, as I have recently, Motherboard, Darklin, and the Orko and Gwildor 2-pack are all in stock at Mattel Creations. So go buy those figures right now.
Right now.
But Keldor sold out on Amazon. He went up on Amazon and sold out immediately. I was gobsmacked.
That's great.
I don't know if he came back in stock after that.
Yeah, he's up on Entertainment Earth and BBT.
Yeah, he's on Entertainment Earth and Big Bad Toy Store. But Amazon came up and then he sold out. And I was like, oh.
Yeah.
You mentioned, hey,
you know where you can find all the links to get him. And if he does come back in stock, go to Toy Habits.
Oh my God.
Keldor article, and we have it all there for you. I had to plug it.
You mentioned Mattel. Are you listening? If you are, just make note that Kayla over here really enjoyed these shows, and just a reminder, like this is a person who's watched it for the first time. And granted, she's really surrounded by a bunch of MOTU nerds that have probably pushed her. But and I think that's to go back to what Teddy was saying. Yeah, but to what Teddy was saying earlier, that we got to get other folks to check this out. Other folks that aren't necessarily in the Masters of the Universe, because I think there's so much there that people will love. Like if you're a genre fan, if you're an animation fan, it's all there. So if you're into half naked people, it's all there. It's all there. So
it checks all the boxes for me.
Talk about this, but when He-Man and Tila finally kissed, was that not freaking amazing? Thank you so much for that moment. I mean, that was incredible.
So good.
Mine doesn't work because I'm not on my cell phone. I'm on my laptop.
Sorry,
but I absolutely loved that, and it was it kind of took me back to watching those old TV shows. Remember on Who's the Boss? And you watched 8 seasons, and Tony and Angela never got together, and they finally did. So this was okay, He-Man and Tila are finally getting together. You knew they were going to do it someday, and they wanted to, and here they are. So that was incredible. And of course, that final scene, seeing Despara, that opens the door for Pop, for Princess of Power, for She-Ra, and a whole nother genre of stuff to come. So that was really awesome to see. That was the most exciting way to kind of end the season, to end the show, was seeing that, because that just opens the door for a whole nother series of things to happen that'll be incredible.
Yep.
Love. Sorceress, do you want to ask the next question that's up?
Are we on 2?
No, go up.
I don't know.
My marks are coming up. Sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
The same boat I was in earlier.
Why are there numbers by that? It's
I'll just ask it, and then
it has your name next to it.
Oh, it does?
Go ahead. Yep.
Nate,
Is
were
it the same?
there any scenes in particular that stood out for you stylistically in Revolution that you enjoyed? And then I'll update the doc with names.
So just on the series as a whole, I mean, I'll answer it for Revolution also, but I would say for Revolution, when I got this question, because we got the questions beforehand, because this is a professional podcast.
I told them that.
And the first scene that came to mind was absolutely the transformation of He-Man and Tila together. Like that, I'm a sucker for anatomy, and I'm a sucker for... It was just beautiful to watch. Like, it was really, really good animation that just really, really, really stood out to me. But also, on the series as a whole, like, any of the one-on-one fights are phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like, from an animation standpoint, I mean, the guys at Powerhouse are just killing it on those scenes. Like, it's amazing. I remember when I was working on the Revelation poster, I was allowed to kind of see the cuts as they developed. And I remember watching a lot of in some of those scenes, there were storyboards. So if you go to the end of Revelation and you think of that fight between Tila and Evil Lyn, that was all just their keyframes, and it was just the pencil art. And I was just like, that is phenomenal. Like, it just, the way the camera moves around the characters, the way, all that stuff. Like, there are a few what I would call money shots that are just phenomenal. So, and most of those tend to happen in the one-on-one fights. He-Man versus Skeletor, Hordak versus Skeletor, Evil Lyn and Green Goddess going to town, all of that stuff. There's just, those are the scenes that I go back and watch over and over.
Yep.
It was very hard not to make any comments.
I heard it.
Yes, Rick
We
knew.
all heard it.
Sure. Sorceress, do you see the updated version now?
I believe so. We're on about the Lynn Sorceress form.
Triclops question?
Oh, we're on Triclops. Where the heck is that? I probably have. It's
Scroll
not
up.
coming up. That's so weird.
Oh, did you just check it?
Oh, for Ted. Triclops?
Yes.
Rip there. Gotcha. Okay. All right. This question's for you, Teddy. Triclops had a significant role in Revelation with the motherboard cult, and Henry Rollins did a fantastic job. Was there a reason he was more in the background in Revolution and had no lines?
Yeah, honestly, time. It really was a product of time. Not because, I mean, Henry is the man. Let me just tell you, that guy is awesome. We were at Mattel last year when we did the behind the scenes show. We did that like sort of like revealing Revelations or Revelations on Revelation, whatever that was. We shot that at Mattel, and Henry was there in studio, and I got to meet him, and he was like, cool dude. We love him. It wasn't his story this season, and if we even broached a moment with Triclops where we had a moment of dialogue, like it was like, oh well, then it opens up, man, we need to explore this and we need to expand this, and how did he take over, what happened after when Skeletor showed back up, why did he step down? Like, it just brought all this up that if we had a 6th episode, sure, he would most likely have been a major thread. It was just a product of time. You know, the story plays really, really tight. I'm really happy with the 5 episodes. I'm glad the way that it plays. It's very, very tight. But unfortunately, you know, some characters are just, they just didn't get to be in the forefront.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, that makes sense. I mean, it definitely seems like it would have opened the door for a whole nother offshoot and maybe changed the course of the story. So yeah.
Or at least interjected a subplot that took away from the A story. More that's probably what would happen, and it makes things a little chunkier.
Absolutely makes sense. Yeah.
I'll ask Terrence real quick because he asked that. Yes, when He-Man put the shine the new sword and created that sort of like over map over all of Eternia, and everybody's eyes went normal and you went there.
Johnny, I clicked it. Sorry.
We thought that when that happened, all of the techno cultists also, all of the nanites in them that mutated them also dissipated.
Yeah.
Cool. So I think
Very
the next
cool.
one is me.
Yes.
And I have some visual aids. We noticed a lot of things that me in particular and some other people were nodding with me when I was talking about this. There are some things that are very reminiscent of Breath of the Wild, The Legend of Zelda. Like this Cloud Crusher looks similar to the Divine Beast from the Gerudo Village. And then the mural in Grayskull gave a lot of vibes from the designs of Breath of the Wild. Was this a conscious inspiration for the team behind it, or was it just kind of one of those things that just happened?
If it was purely the artists at Powerhouse, and I didn't get any insight into that, but I can see it. I can certainly see it. I mean, we're all fans of Breath of the Wild, although I have to say, I have the new Zelda game sitting on my entertainment center. I have not even opened it yet. Tears of the Kingdom has been sitting there for almost a year. It is still sealed, and I just have not had the time to sit down and spend time with it. And it makes me sad. I have a half-built Lego set in the kitchen. Like I'm just
be careful, because I don't know if you can ever actually truly have the time for Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, I started Tears of the Kingdom, and then Baldur's Gate 3 happens.
Oh yeah, my husband's only playing Baldur's Gate. Like that is I've lost him. He's
That's okay. I've got all my entire toy collection packed up. That's been packed up for 6 months. So I'm gonna have nothing but busy time trying to sort everything and get it all set up again.
It's fun though.
I know
It's
about
fun
not
to
having
do.
time. It's a tough one.
Brick.
Yeah. For Nate, let's talk art again. And so just to maybe switch it up a little, you're not allowed to talk about the goddess. But of all the sort of new characters and new looks that were kind of introduced in this version, if you had to, like, there were like, let's say 2 that you were allowed to like draw for, whether maybe packaging art or whatever, that you're just like, I really love this design. I want to do art of that. What stands out to you?
I did it on the second poster that was just revealed today.
Okay. Fair enough.
Perfect.
I mean,
You did it.
In all honesty, it was, yeah, when I saw the Tri Sorceress Tila become like a walking amalgam that is Eternia Tower kind of, I was just like floored. That was so cool to me. That was so cool. And what a beautiful way to symbolically just show that this is the most powerful sorceress, is by pulling straight from Eternia Towers. It was my hats off to the design team. And then likewise, He-Man. I mean, I love that look for He-Man. It's I immediately saw the nods to the 87 movie, immediately saw the color nods to She-Ra. Well, not just She-Ra, but honestly, all of the, I would say the core characters of the cast, like Man of Arms becoming Man of War, has a lot of that same color palette. Orko, the white, has this same color palette. So, I mean, it's like,
they're going to look really nice together on the shelf, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. No, they're going to look phenomenal. And it's...
They're going to look
I've already seen them.
Hot, spelled HAWT.
And with the new CGI He-Man logo on the harness.
Mm-hmm. That was a nice blending of the
chef's kiss.
Nate and I are quiet about that one. That was something that, you know, it was important for Mattel to unify He-Man, right? And we had spent so much time with that classic, the VHS look. But as Mattel sort of evolves He-Man and evolves the brand of Master Universe, it was really important to make sure that they were unifying that look for all of that. we're a bunch of oldies. We have that nostalgia for that old HM logo. But I also know, we both do, that it is important to make sure that you unify this with a singular look. So while we both recognize that is important, we still have a little bit of affinity for the old HM. So
yeah.
And I like the sword. I like that sword.
I do too. I love it.
It's really fun. And just as I also really like, this is gonna sound dumb, but just the way that He-Man's hair was done for that particular look. Just so cool. Like we've seen He-Man's hair get close to that, but this was so new yet so fitting for the character. Like I almost don't want him to have another hairdo for a long time.
It was
You know what?
very
Now that
Thor-esque.
Down with the page boy.
Now that you say that, I'm wondering if he were to release the power, does he look different? Anyway, whatever.
Does Adam look different?
Yeah, does he all of a sudden have like a different haircut? Anyway, whatever. It doesn't matter. I was just a thought.
Thinking.
But it is funny that you mentioned that about the logo, because I do like the fact that they are trying to tie it all together. And it seemed like maybe there's a brand change because it is this big moment. But it is funny because there's so much energy put into that H in this series in particular, with like, we're branding it onto Seal Subternia, and we're doing them, and then logo change. But
I think what it also does conceptually, and especially, I know Rob really believes in this, is the He-Man that truly synthesizes magic and technology. And he's not just brandishing the power of Zor. He is truly brandishing the entire amalgam of power in terms of both magic and technology. And I think that is where that new look truly communicates
like that
idea. And I stand by that. When Rob said that to me, I was like, he's right. I get it. I get conceptually why that's important and why that works. Can't help but think that, child of the 80s, that logo isn't important to me. It is. It's fine. But I also know that he's right. That is communicating this new iteration, this version of He-Man.
Yeah.
The nice thing too is it showed up in a moment. I mean, you see it in the transformation. It starts as an H. It's there, and then all of a sudden it transforms and does its thing. But it's cool because both He-Man and Skeletor, as they go into that fight with each other, I mean, you're looking at the two great entities, the two gods of this whole franchise, really harnessing both that magic and technology together, which made it just so cool. And then the very end, I mean, he's welcoming Eternia into a whole new era of independence and removing.
I thought that was great.
removing everything that was old.
Yes, thank you for that. Such a great way to end the entire sort of this season, and just such a big thing happening in the whole order of Eternia. Super smart.
For Ted, I did not write this question, so hopefully this comes out the correct way. Who is responsible for defining the design language for Eternia, etc., and the stark contrast of the Techno Titans, which looked completely different?
So the Powerhouse team, really, I mean, Eddie, Patrick, Adam, like Shane, all that whole team, they're all such, like, no pun intended, masters of this kind of visual storytelling, right? When we talked about bringing in the Techno Titans, this was something that was in one of the original Bibles for MOTU, that there was what was called a glistening age of technology, that Eternia was super advanced, high tech, and that as soon as they brought magic in, it reduced the world back to that barbaric, sort of Conan-esque looking world, and only traces of high technology were still found in the corners of Eternia. And Rob really responded to that. He's like, I love that. And there was a nod in that Bible that there were great Goliaths of technology, titans of technology, and that was it was only in words. So we were like, oh, what are the Techno Titans? Like, let's design that. And that was Powerhouse Unleashed. Like, they came back to us with all those gorgeous, eldritch looking creatures, as if they were these great Cthulhu looking things gone through a cybernetic view. The one obviously the Monstroid that was in there, that was me going, can we put the Monstroid in there? Because the Monstroid would be one of those things, right? And
I wrote this question and I screenshotted this because I noticed Monstroid today. In my previous viewings, I didn't clock it. I wasn't paying attention to him. But yeah, they all look so different. They look like nothing from Masters of the Universe. They feel like they're from a different property. Yeah. And then I'm like, wait, that's freaking Monstroid.
There was one other that I was trying to get in there. There was an unproduced Horde robot that had like a water cannon squirting action. He was in one of the old toy catalogs. I think the 87 toy catalog, if I'm not mistaken, the infamous 87 toy catalog with Gigantosaurus and some of the
you mean the Powers of Grayskull catalog?
Oh, Powers of Grayskull one, yeah. But they so it was this unproduced Horde robot. That's really what it was just called, Horde robot. And I really wanted to get that one in there too. But we didn't need it. Like, we had all of the designs at the time.
Spidor could have been really cool as well.
Oh yeah.
Now you tell me.
Mantisaur.
We honestly, there was a brief moment where, Kevin was like, can I have one of these suckers that fly? Because I need Granamir to come in at the end and beat up one that flies. And I was thinking, oh, what if it's Fright Fighter? What if we could design Fright Fighter that it's actually like a giant dragonfly? And then we wound up using that sort of like squid-like looking thing, which the 2000X had this really cool squid like vehicle, this like water vehicle. There was like a whale, war whale, and attack squid, what I think their names were. Don't quote me. Yep. That attack squid was kind of like the inspiration for that thing that Gradamir fights.
That's awesome. So cool. So cool.
I think if you give me 2 seconds, I think I actually have.
Oh my gosh. Sorceress, did you see the private chat?
I copy and paste the next question for you.
Okay.
Do you want to move before we?
Oh, there you go. Seen this. This is that 1987
so fun.
toy
catalog
that has.
Do you have all the catalogs?
I don't have all of them. I have, I think, 3 of them. I have the 86, 85, and then the 87.
Oh, see, I tried to look up 85. I think it was either 84 or 85, and I was like, never mind, because yeah, if you have that, that's worth quite the penny.
The 85 one?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this one has Gyro Attacker in there too.
Oh, nice.
So Nate, this next question is for you. Do you have any favorite Easter eggs or teases that you've snuck into any of your MOTU art pieces?
So if you look in my Figura Obscura artwork that I do for the Horsemen, there's loads of Easter eggs all over them.
Yeah.
I haven't done a whole lot of that for Masters of the Universe. However, there is one that exists, and it's Johnny. It's that Castle Grayskull painting that I did.
Okay, let me bring it up.
And it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, but I snuck the Green Goddess in there.
That's great.
So. You know, over at Toy Havoc, we love to look for Easter eggs and then pick them apart and fantasize and figure out like what's going to come up and are these future toys and what's the history of the Easter egg we found and on and on and on. So that's one of our favorite things to do when we take a look at the MOTU artwork packaging.
Yes,
I found her.
Yeah, exactly.
The
whole purpose of this painting was it's the box art for the Icon Heroes environmental statue that I got to help design. So like that other side of Grayskull that was never made into a toy, never seen, because anytime we looked at old artwork of the castle, you only saw the front and the one side because that's all that was made.
Yep.
Yeah.
And when we did this statue, I was working with the Horsemen on it, but they kind of let me design that side. And so that's kind of
so cool.
In a somewhat official way, I guess maybe really official way, that is the other side of Grayskull.
Because I have it. I don't have it handy, I don't think, but the Hallmark ornament that came out, I think that's pretty much what that side looks like. I have one of those and I added to it.
By the way, Nate, that's the title of your autobiography, The Other Side of Grayskull.
The other side.
That's awesome.
I love it. I love it.
Also, this is not the one with the Horde robot. I'll find it and send it to you.
You got to start drawing like random little things into your art, just so that you can give Michael and Toy Sorceress hours of content of just trying to figure stuff out.
And you guys are right, especially to look at Origins, because Axel is as big a He-Man nerd as all the rest of us, if not more so in many ways.
He loves to hide Easter eggs for us, and my God, I want to tell you, our heads exploded when we got the artwork revealed for the Eternia box, the playset. That there was just so many things on there. We have yet to get a high-res version of that, but there's like every single like vintage figure that's left to come out in the Origins line. Somehow they managed to squeeze it into that artwork.
Did anybody get their shipping notice yet here?
Oh yeah, I got my shipping notice this morning.
Not yet. Oh my God! You know what? Funny story. So I just moved a few months ago, and then yesterday I saw everyone starting to get their shipping notice for Eternia. So I went on to Mattel Creations, and I'm like, oh, let me see if mine shipped. I'm like, oh, it hasn't. And then I noticed they had my old address. I'm like, dear God, I ordered this over a year and 4 months ago. Yeah. And I freaked out because I was like, what if they already shipped it out? Mattel's not great at sending shipping and tracking information. So thank God this morning I called and updated the address, but have not got the shipping notification. Thank goodness. Or else
I haven't either.
I haven't either. The new owner's door.
I am. Yeah. Like I am literally like, wait, what?
I gotta come retrieve something.
They're like, you just came by the office and saw all the toys for the year.
I say that all the time. My husband cracks up when I'm like, oh, I saw somebody had a new He-Man figure online, and Larry's like, don't they know who you are? And I'm like, don't they know who I am?
Yeah, I got.
You got to get on their influencer program.
I got my.
I am.
I know.
I get one toy every other 6 months or whatever it is.
Did you get your shipping notice, Johnny?
Yeah, I got my shipping notification this morning, and it should be here, I think, Monday, because it's.
Oh my God!
Goodness.
Oh
my God!
I don't know that we have time.
I've been half an hour for freaking Mattel, and I'm probably going to be the last person to get it.
You know what's going to happen, Teddy? Yours is delayed because they're throwing in a brand new fourth tower.
I wish that was my idea. Fourth tower was my idea, and I was like, I said, look, if this works, this does well, you guys should make the fourth tower as an add-on, and with the monorail track to go in there. We have a whole story about that. We have a whole story, but it really.
Do you guys believe like we're finally going to be getting Eternia? Like it's been.
And here's the thing. Here's the thing that I think Mattel did a really, really, really poor job doing. That sucker is huge. They have one. They have one in the Grayskull room at Mattel, and you could play with it. Like, I mean, it's a full production version of it. Yeah. They don't show you how much headroom Masterverse figures have on every floor of Central Tower.
Wow,
like,
that's incredible.
You could literally walk a Masterverse figure under the lion's jaw.
Yeah.
The only it's two things it doesn't do, which is why I think they wanted to sort of hedge and say, no, it's an Origins playset, but it really does work for both. The only thing it doesn't do is you can put a Masterverse figure on the Grayskull trapdoor, and about this much of their head sticks up out of the thing. And I think that they were like, no, it doesn't fully go in there. And then the Serpent's Tower, there's like a little bit of the cave. You have to like bend it to get him in there. He doesn't just walk in there. But the floors of Central Tower have plenty of headroom for a Masterverse figure. Underneath when the lion's jaw is up, there is, I think you could fit a full Masterverse figure underneath there. I was playing with that in the room. There's a bunch of executives there, and I'm 50 years old playing with it. I'm like, oh my God, look at this. It was so much fun. And I was like, why didn't you guys just like advertise works for Origins, works for Masterverse? Because I think
they did, but but I agree with you in saying that they didn't push it enough. But they did mention that pretty early. Yeah, and they showed it.
They should have sold it.
I agree. I 100% agree, and I think they should have done a lot of that with with even the vehicles, like just size them up a little bit more. Cause I use my, I use
Especially
my jet sled for,
especially that land shark. That kind of makes me sad that
yeah. But like,
You know what-
imagine
what
you
looks great?
get some of us who buy a Masterverse, it feel a little bit more like, hey, yeah, I might as well buy
You know,
that
sitting
too.
neck
And-
and neck on that Road Ripper from Origins. He fits perfectly. I mean,
Really?
he's a little big for it, but he works great.
well, I guess I could probably show you guys this because it leaked last week, but
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh
Like,
my
He wants
gosh.
somebody to thank for it.
When-
but
when I was at Mattel last week, or 2 weeks, whatever
incredible.
when we recorded, Josh Graham, who's the boys brand manager, he was home. He was sick and he wasn't there. And he said, go in my cube and go rate it for merch. And I was like, okay. And I was looking in his cube. I literally took pictures of myself rating his cube. You're gonna laugh at this. I took pictures of myself rating his cube, and I was like, oh look, here's me at Josh Graham's cube. Oh my god, look, it's Modi in a box. Oh look, I'm walking away.
Oh my God.
I love how Orko on your shirt kind of looks like he's holding it too.
Orko looks like he's holding it. And I said, but I was texting him the whole time, and I was like, I have all this shit. Show me something new. But this, I was so excited to see that they did this packaging for it, and
Yes.
I
Powers
was
of Grayskull.
and I was literally like,
I mean, I gotta tell you, yeah. Were you not all blown away? I mean, I saw this obviously before we leaked it out. We got it from somebody. You've seen it way before us, Teddy, but Michael sent me the images on our Slack, and when they started to load up on my phone, they were blurry at first, and I'm like, what's he sending me? And then when I first saw Modi in a Powers of Grayskull box load up, my mind blew, because I've been calling that since early last year, and I said 2024 is going to be Powers of Grayskull year. I am so excited. Like, the artwork on there is incredible.
It's
the use
beautiful.
of the logo and the colors, the theme. They did just such an amazing job. Oh my god, I
so
know Modi
good.
looks adorable on there.
And
He's
his
freaking out.
I just
movement,
want
his pose,
Modi.
so dynamic and
I just
so
want him.
wonderful. I mean, that is.
Do you have an extra, Ted?
he's sitting
What
on
else
the
you got
shelf
back there, Ted?
Mattel cut him off because
sitting on my phone with
you've
my-
been naughty.
with my
Wow.
Titus and Megator.
Oh,
in
look at all
box and
those.
my,
Okay.
No way.
Gondar.
my
Is
one
that
dog.
He's flexing now.
Is that a true vintage Wondar?
It is a true vintage
That's
one.
what I saw too. I was like, look at this
Wow.
guy.
That's
Wow.
on my. That's
Must
on
be
my. I'm sure I'll
nice.
never own one, but I would. Man, I would. Love
That's
Wow.
so,
Vintage Wondar.
I love the display
Sweet.
box on that. Oh, that's great.
so good.
Beautiful
so
display
Oh,
for it.
Storm's
You
back.
just you broke the chat's minds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Teddy.
With that
So
whole
Michael's like, I got a vintage Wondar hanging behind me too. He does.
oh,
So-
Michael.
I don't. You know what I don't have? I don't have the laser light figures, and Pixel Dan has those, and I'm just like,
But you have the giants in their box. I mean,
do.
come on. That's
Yeah.
incredible. Are we getting those? Are we
Those are
getting
like-
those? Have you
like-
seen them already at Mattel?
the what?
Dish. The giants.
She's
Oh no, I haven't seen. I honestly, I haven't seen.
I'm trying to get stuff out of them, guys.
Yeah, no. There's. I mean, look. I saw a
Respect
lot
the
of
hustle.
great Origins. And I saw a lot of great Masterverse, but I'm not gonna tell you what it is.
Yeah.
I want-
You can't tell us if you saw a hero hanging on the shelf there or sitting. No, you can't tell us.
Blank face.
So
Hero Origin.
we could talk this all night, and we're going to continue.
True,
but
true.
Teddy, I know you had a
Yes.
limited window, and we're
Yes.
we're
Well, the
coming
only
up
thing I
on
have
it.
are these two nerds wanting to eat so bad, but I have about another 20 minutes.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
I'm having fun.
Yeah.
Good, we're glad
So we
you're
have a
having fun.
few questions left. Do you guys want to? I don't care which of these, but if you guys have a preference for any of these, the 4 questions that are left, we'll probably just have to skip the toy talk. We've already been talking toys anyway, so.
Yeah.
That's the funnest part.
Ted,
Let's skip toy talk.
What was
That's the part you don't
Teddy?
skip.
What was your favorite thing that you got to add to the lore entirely? Like an entire piece of lore that you got to add, or something that you got to tweak?
It's probably the fourth tower. That's probably the thing that that I think we, when I pitched it to Rob, I mean, you would think it would be Motherboard, but it's actually the fourth tower, because when I pitched it to Rob, he was like, "Wait, what?" And I said, "Okay, look, you've got Grayskull Tower, which is representative of your good guys, and you've got Viper Tower, which is representative of your bad guys, the Snake Men." I said, but if we're really looking at this as like the three gods, you've got Thor, you've got Ka, and then you've got Havoc, and the central tower is the repository of all of that knowledge combined, of all three of those gods. So doesn't that stand to reason that Havoc would have had a tower as well? And Rob was like, And then we started really noodling, like, okay, well, what happened to it? Where is it? What, when did that happen? What was that? And how, and when, as soon as we came up with the idea that the three gods, or the first priests of the three gods, there was the first priest of Zor, the first priest of Ka, and the first priest of Havoc, when they created the Armistice of the Three Towers and created, what's that?
Goddess.
Exactly. When they created the Valhalla, the place of eternal life, that was sort of like the moment of realization that when Tila needed to get all three of those stabs together, that her look would emulate the central tower. That was when it all like sort of illuminated for us, and that the lion would be her sort of final form. And then her wings, I don't know if you see her, she's got these beautiful gold sort of like ethereal wings. They're from the griffins in the front of the central tower, the gold griffin on there. That was kind of like the inspiration for that. But yeah, that's kind of my favorite thing. Like I just love that. I love that there is hidden behind these three towers a dark, dirty little secret about a god who wanted to destroy everything. That really, really excites me.
Love.
I think this ties into.
I was
Brick,
going to
one of the
say
questions you had about myth and cosmology. Do you want to tee that one up next?
Well, yeah, and I've seen you talk about the sort of three gods and what they represent, but I just want to jump to something you just said about the central tower being a merge. You described Tila Sorceress as a lion, right? And you use that word, and then you also mentioned that there were griffins. So I was wondering, like, if it's these sort of three animal-based deities represented there between the goat, the snake, and the falcon, I was wondering, is that just an actual lion, and why is it a lion? But then there's griffins like there versus
Manticore, or
yeah, because I was thinking of like we talked about it last time, like the dragons. Well, like if I really stop to think about it, dragons have wings maybe like a falcon. They're snake-like, like a snake, and the horns that are sort of goat-like.
Yeah.
And so I was just sort of wondering, is maybe that's not an actual lion, but so far, it's a lion. I don't know.
We've been referring to it as the lion, but
okay.
I mean the idea that it's like a sphinx, right? Or the little things are griffins there, but it could be sphinx-like, legs.
Lions have a place anyway, because we saw, or at least in Revelation, King Grayskull was riding Bionatops, but we also know King Grayskull rode a lion,
not a lion. Yep.
Yeah.
True.
And never forget Claudine.
You also had Claudine, right?
A big drag queen lion.
Yeah, beautiful. Yes, that's right. Well, I'm just curious, since we're here on animals, can we really quickly go to Lynn's sorceress form? What's up with her being a bat?
You know what? That's a really great idea, a great question, and I don't have an answer for it.
Sometimes that's the answer.
Sometimes things just look good.
like
Okay.
hot on her.
But it's funny because then it does
second
tie
that.
into some of the Horikoth stuff. And I've always sort of wondered about, like, Skeletor does have a bat on his chest originally, and then there's the horde element that's clearly a bat-like thing. So I don't know. Those things are out there. And so sometimes it's just it's that until it's not, right?
Until it's not. And one of the beautiful things about religions, and if this is truly religion on a world, is that over time things get distorted and changed. And what was a bird on one world could be a bat on another, and inspired by something else. And the stories as they translate down through the ages get a little changed over time. And I think that that's one of the things, not that that's an excuse or what we're trying to do. The reality is it just looked cool and we were good with that. And I think that was created at a time before we had the sort of the clarity on the Trinity and how we were going to use them in Revolution. So I think if given our druthers, would we have gone back and made Lynn more of the Havoc sorceress? Maybe we would have. But I think ultimately here's the one thing we talk about a lot about why Skeletor, when he had the power and what he was able to do and what Lynn was able to do, the power was not given to them. They stole the power. And there is a corruption that happened with that power. The full secrets were not unveiled to them. They sort of forced their entry into it and they were not escorted around the castle. They didn't get all the full tour. They didn't get the blueprints. They didn't get the manual. They just kind of barged their way into things, and some things were still left hidden to them. So when Skeletor got that power, and then when Evelyn got that power, they took it by force. So there was still some mystery and secrets that were not unveiled to them.
Fair enough.
Very cool.
And she looks amazing as a bat. So good enough.
Yes, she really does. I just realized I put all the chat away. Do you want to ask that last question, Brick, or can we move on to a couple questions about toys?
Go for it. Yeah, I just typed in. Someone else should go.
But do you want that question to be asked?
Sorry guys. So professional,
one of yours
are we?
About essentially what you wanted to know was they.
What you commented on Ted's post.
Essentially.
Oh yeah, but sure, I'll go. I was trying to say we could get a different voice, but so Gwildor. Someone had to reintroduce themselves to Gwildor because they hadn't seen them in a while, and I believe the line was, "Hey, it's me, Duncan. I was man-at-arms when we adventured across the universe." So that adventure across the universe is something that we're familiar with, and it presumably happened when? Is there thoughts about it?
We canonized that shit. The Master Universe movie is now.
They went to Old Town Whittier. Yeah,
they literally were in Whittier. It's all fine. They were hanging out on the promenade. It was great. Yep. I like to think that happened. And if you know anything about the Master Universe movie, She-Ra was supposed to be in that movie. There is designs for that.
She looked great.
She looked amazing. In my mind, the Masters of the Universe movie happened canonically when all of the 130 episodes of Filmation had ended. All, what was it? 93 episodes of She-Ra had happened. And then there was a couple of comics that straddled in 87. And then the Masters of the Universe movie adventure happened. So cool. It happened after all of those adventures happened, but before we got to Revelation.
Love it. And Orko was chilling somewhere for some reason.
Want to see something else really cool?
Chilling like a villain.
I'm
excited.
I may really love the Masters of the Universe movie a lot.
Oh wow! Oh my god! Who made this?
This is an incredible customizer named Adam Osgood, who does incredible work making figures look as if they did back in the 80s.
Yep.
He did her. Ready? You guys are gonna lose your minds. You're gonna lose all your
Is Allison in the chat? I hope Allison is watching this because
Yeah, she's definitely
okay,
watching.
good. Oh my God! Look at Tila.
Look at her.
Wow.
Oh, vegan Tila.
Wow.
Look at her.
All right.
Don't ever invite me to your house because they will be late.
Wow.
That is
Those
awesome.
are awesome.
He even
So
did
cool.
the cosmic key.
Oh,
Wow.
Wow.
that synthesizer. Beautiful.
Is
So
he
well
like
done.
his work is just absolutely breathtaking. He also did Marlena and She-Ra and Catra as if they were in their filmation
line.
looks, but vintage toys.
Wow.
And
Oh God, I want those.
have done,
With you, Thanos. I want those too.
I love
Especially
Adam.
that She-Ra.
Need those.
he may have done this.
Ah,
Oh my God.
yeah, I've seen that
Wow.
online, and it's amazing.
Like
That is
I mean,
beautiful.
So cool.
this is
That's
guys. When you
sweet.
don't have kids, you can buy one of these.
Hey, that's me.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's Johnny's favorite thing to mention.
That's awesome.
Hashtag child free.
Yes.
Adam is so
Saves more room for toys.
He also,
Oh, I still don't know.
I'm
what
just
I'm gonna
waiting
do.
for-
I've got
he also made
Eternia
this.
coming and a cat slayer. So
And if you guys know what this is,
Wow.
does anybody know what this is?
I don't.
No, but it
Allison
looks cool.
probably does.
That's on the She-Ra
She-Ra.
thing, isn't it?
So there was an abandoned, unproduced Whispering Woods playset
Oh.
Uh-huh.
that this was Light Hope in that design.
Oh.
And
Oh, wow.
she was a
I
microphone.
was gonna say this, Mike.
Big mouth
Wow.
that was able to be the voice of Light Hope. So this design was the Light Hope design, and it is in this beautiful pearly pink
That's awesome.
thing. You can put the batteries in there with the come on.
I could have
So
used that
cool.
10 years ago when I was designing that other Light Hope figure.
No, your Light Hope is a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece.
So you just
On that shelf right there.
Allison heard her name and has appeared.
So, Nate and Ted, can you tell us a little bit about your background in toy collecting? I know we're all kids of the 80s, and this is stuff we grew up with, and it's like part of our
90s.
childhood. But what brought you into actually collecting toys up to this day as an adult? I mean, I know where we all came from.
I was poor when I was a kid, and I'm
Mhm.
not now.
Yeah. Like, that sounds similar to
So
me.
you
I
didn't
was
collect
very
toys as a kid, or
Now I am making up for lost time.
Yes, I have a very similar story,
Same.
Ted.
yeah, I didn't really have toys. I had like giant Lego blocks, and that was about it. Like I had some other things that my dad would get me because he really wanted a boy, but he was lucky I was a tomboy. But yeah, I didn't really have like action figures or anything, so making up for that now. What about you, Nate?
similar to Ted. I mean, I had a good childhood. I had a fair amount of toys. And I just never stopped. There were those awkward years in junior high and a little bit of high school where you're like, no, I shouldn't collect toys anymore. But when I was honest with myself, I'd still go to the mall with my friends, and I would still go to KB Toys,
Mhm.
and I would still peruse the aisles and see, what am I seeing? I remember seeing New Adventures of He-Man at the time in KB Toys and just kind of being like, wow, He-Man's continuing? Like, that was news to me in junior high, kind of a thing. So I never just stopped. So, I mean, I muscled through the awkward years also of being an adult toy collector, a grown-up, and coming up to the register and having the person at the register making fun of you. It's like, oh, is this for your kids or is this for you? Like, we've all been there. We've all had to deal with that.
That
And I'm just
finally
like, no,
happened
it's
to me.
fine. And it's cool to live in a day today to just like nobody bothers you about that anymore. And it's wonderful. It's like I'm a nearly 50-year-old man myself, can walk into Target, come out with handfuls of toys and nobody's batting an eye. So it's, yeah. And anymore, toy collecting has become, and I know this is true for a lot of collectors, it's like I have to rethink of what I'm collecting and how I'm collecting. And that's been an interesting evolution as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny because I'm a more recent toy collector, and I was talking about this with Johnny and how there's kind of these moments that happen that, you know, once you become a toy collector, like this will happen to you. You'll, you know, have your first like HasLab that you order, you'll have your first pre-order that gets canceled by Walmart. Like there's kind of these like milestones.
Toy collector bingo.
Yes.
Toy collector bingo. And so
Yep.
I finally had the one happen where a lady, when I can't remember what toys it was that I was getting, but she was like, "Oh, is this for your daughter?" And I'm like, "No, ma'am, I have no kids. These are for myself."
Yeah.
Sorry. It finally happened. But anyways, Johnny, do you want to ask that last toy question and then we'll geek the F out of here?
Is that the one with the lightning bolt?
Mm-hmm. With your name.
Okay.
Lightning bolt.
Without giving anything away, although I think at this point it's clear that you won't give anything away.
Yeah.
Teddy and Nate, Ted, you can go first. If you could make only one new toy from Revolution, what would you want it to be?
Grandmere.
Okay.
That means he hasn't seen it yet. I'm reading his face.
We don't know.
Doesn't mean he's not coming. I just haven't seen it.
Yeah.
See?
Nate, how about you?
Before Nate goes, can we
10
just
guesses.
before Nate goes, I'll just say, yeah, I agree with that. And wouldn't this be a great year if we got multiple dragons this year, Nate? Okay, sorry. I just had to throw in that 4 horsemen attempt.
I've been asking them for dragons for 10 years. I've also been asking
Year of the
them for
Dragon.
sets. I told
We're
Corvo,
getting
I was
to
like,
Dragons and Legends of Dragonor.
guys,
So that'll
Mythic-
scratch your itch, Brick.
Mythic regions. Give me modular play sets. Mythic regions.
I
if
love
you
that.
Take it. Just give me the play sets. I want a
Settlers
wizard's
of
lab.
Catan.
I want a throne room. I want a castle parapet. Like just give it to me.
I love it. I love it. Good. It's good to know other.
We
folks.
are exploring. If you look at Cosmic, the last Cosmic pre-order did have some, not a play set by any means, but it's the beginnings of thinking outside of the figural box, as it were. So, I mean, little by little, we'll get there.
Mythic regions, cosmic regions. Just do it. Just give me.
Regions.
I love that.
Yeah.
What about Rev Toys? Nate?
Rev Toys.
What if
Revolution.
you could
Revelation
make something?
Toys. Gotcha,
Sorry. Yes.
I mean, Green Goddess is a clear answer, mostly because I hope I get to do the packaging art for that.
Right.
I think you have to.
In translucent green plastic, of course.
Please.
I mean, it could.
You want to translucent?
Has
Remember
to
last
be.
time
I
that
do.
happened?
I know, but plastics are better now.
But I also
look at, Ghost Jaga. I mean, work of art in
True.
translucent
That
plastic.
goes Jock is really good.
I know.
Yeah.
I love it.
And I say Green Goddess, but yeah, Teddy took mine because Granomir would be amazing on the shelf.
Mhm.
So I'll just
be
say hey, I
big.
got 2 choices there.
Really
so.
big.
Nice. Nice.
Love.
Just say no.
Um,
Allison, I have my Green Goddess over there on my concept shelf, and I swear, like, I barely touch her because my hips are still okay, and I'm so terrified that if I look at it the wrong way, she's going to explode.
It's one of those where, and I think other people have said this. If you have a Green Goddess and her hips are still together, they're likely to stay together.
Really?
Wow.
I can't promise that for anybody.
Yeah, I'm not going to try it.
But I'm in the same boat.
taking
I
the
actually
chances.
had a few different Green Goddesses. I had one explode on me. It was the first one that I got, and then I was able to procure a few others after that, and 2 of them are still together and they're fine.
Love.
It's a shame. That happened, and then the Roboto chest exploded on me, which really broke. And I had 2 Roboto.
Yeah, that clear
Ted,
plastic.
if you need Roboto back, I probably might have an extra for you. Hit me up.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. For you, anything.
You'll have to sit there while she grills you about your visit to Mattel the other day.
Yeah. That'll be your trade-off.
I think the excuse was something about the sonic welder. Was the thing about that? So
sonic welding machine, yeah.
Sonic welder.
That's awesome.
So I have a quick personal question because Johnny brought it to my attention that apparently Fisto has a daughter named Kayla. So just curious if maybe she'll be included in next season somehow.
No. Great question. Kayla, Kayla, if you look at the cover, the new variant cover that says "Who is Despara?" Kayla's on the cover.
Oh, she is.
She's on the cover.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Is she Fisto's daughter, or isn't she?
From what I saw, the Grayskull wiki said she was Fisto's daughter in the classics bios.
Yeah, in the classics bios.
That makes sense.
You know how those are gospel.
Well done.
But Kayla is a character. She was in the Hero Son of He-Man Bible for Filmation, and she was one of the new Masters of the Universe. And that character Kayla is
here, courtesy of toyhabits.com.
Toy Habits.
I had to ask because first of all, the fact that there's a character with my name is very cool, and second of all, that I'm Fisto's daughter is just even more perfect.
It's very
yes. Does anyone know which one? Because I don't.
Does anyone know?
Which one?
Yeah.
Bottom middle.
Bottom middle?
Oh yeah, the one with the white with the
Oh, okay.
And the white hair.
Of course, white hair. I love white hair.
I thought you were asking the question that's on the cover. Does anyone know who is
No. Because I don't know who everyone is in the
There's
picture.
only one answer.
Lady Slither, Andra, Tila. Who else is in there? I saw
Skeleton was in there.
Skeleton.
Marlena.
That's right.
Marlena.
Skeleton. Adam.
Mohawk.
Bottom right.
Adam. Saren. Keldor's mother.
Yep. Lady Slither.
Lady Slither. I literally just 3D printed my my classics scale Lady Slither.
Nice.
Oh, look at that.
I'll be working on that this weekend.
I need to get it.
Wow. That's really cool.
She's down there. I have her.
Respect.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. I know you have to get out of here. Geek the F out of here. If people, don't already follow you, I doubt there's anyone watching that doesn't, but just in case, where can they find you and see all the stuff you will be promoting and your artwork and whatnot? Nate, do you want to go first?
Sure. Best place for me is just Instagram, probably, because I'm old. And that's Nate Baertsch Art is where you're going to see my artwork. If you want to see me post pictures of clouds and action figures and sometimes my cat, then it's just Nate Baertsch.
Love. And Ted.
We love your art, Nate.
Also old. Also just on Insta, I'm Animate Ted. One word, but 2 words. And it's mostly toy pictures, and then every now and then shameless self-promotion of something I'm working on at Netflix. So mostly Master Universe, and there's a lot of Avatar: The Last Airbender stuff coming. So
excited. Also, I loved Wednesday and I loved One Piece. Yep. So good. Big fans.
Love it.
Yeah. Well, thanks everyone for joining us, whether you're live in the chat or watching on the replay. Thanks to our co-hosts, Brick Something and Toy Sorceress. They will also be joining on our next stream. Thanks again, Ted and Nate. This has been so much fun. So much fun. Thanks for geeking the F out with us. And we'll see you guys. We'll see you guys soon. We'll see you guys in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Everyone else.
Thank you all. That was awesome.